Hello everybody, my name is Monica Radulescu and I am today during our office hours what's new in Edge 6.6. So for the agenda for today is going to consist of introduction of new features in Edge 6.6, highlights and questions. We are really excited to announce that for Edge 6.6 we have more than 60 new or enhanced features. As a project manager and a field person myself in the past, I'm even more excited as I recognized how these features address some of the most common yet most stringent situations in the field. Our new features were designed to offer enhanced quality of data field collection while making the field work more streamlined. So if we're looking at our more than 60 features, we see that they cover various fields from field loggers, assigning time and date to the collected samples, EDP management, printing, generating reports, field forms, and also a set of miscellaneous features that we couldn't really group into a specific category. So the highlights for today were going to consist in 10 features. As much as I would really love to present all the 60 features that we developed, we recognize the constraints in time. So we're going to be presenting the capturing GPS coordinates and associated sample, also filter location chooser by SPM task, support for partial RAS air sample loggers, importing logger data to Edge, print configuration tool for custom header and footer on field forms, hydraulic gradient, export COC as a PDF, capture photos from built-in camera with OCR, error log, and last but not least, optional user login, auto-populating name in EDD. As I was mentioning before, we are only presenting few highlights of these features given the time constraints. However, a full list of these features can be found in our release notes for Edge 6.6. In-depth information about how these features work and how they are implemented can also be found in our documentation files in the help manual. For any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer and guide you through using these new features. And now, with no further ado, let's go and see what we have here. So the first thing is capturing of a GPS coordinates. This feature addresses the need of capturing the accurate location of a collected sample directly from the field sample form. The data is going to be recorded in two tables, DT geography and DT sample parameter. And in order to implement this feature, we brought up two more fields that are pertaining to the field sample form. And I'm just going to jump one slide over just to show you where those fields are found. So basically, when we go to the field sample form, we're going to go to the setup, and we're going to configure the section, which is the field sample v1. And we're going to bring up the two additional fields, geodata and georemark. Once that we do this, we're going to address the location feature. And pressing location, we're going to get a window which offers us a dialog where we can do various things. And one of the things that we're discussing about this today is capturing the location of where we are at that point when we're collecting the sample. So capturing the location is going to populate those two fields with GPS coordinates and also with GPS remark. And going back here, this information is going to be recorded in the EDD in the vSample v1 tab. Going further, and submitting this information to the database, we're going to have it in two tables as I was mentioning before. We're going to have the latitude, the longitude, and the horizontal errors in DT sample parameter. And also, we're going to have the georemark in DT geography. The next feature is filter location chooser by SPM task. And we developed this feature because we know that more than often managing environmental field work at a site consists of several tasks which are performed at several locations. So in the past, when we're creating an SPM EDD, there was no way of filtering these locations associated to a certain task. So we had something like this. the user was presented with a list of all the tasks and also a list of all the locations. With the implementation of this new feature, if we have the task chooser and we check the location task filter, then when this is enabled in the task chooser, then upon selecting a task, only the locations pertinent to the task to that task will be shown in the location chooser. So that makes much more easier to identify the locations that we need to access in order to complete that specific task. The next feature I would really like to talk about, and it's one that is really exciting, it's about the support for generic sample results. And we're talking about Partisol and RAS error sample loggers, but also it can add additional error loggers as per the request that could come from our clients. So basically the way we enable this feature is to choose from options in Edge persistence, and from persistent to show the field's results mapping dialog as being true. So how does this work in real life? Let's assume that we're going in the field at location 1, and on the 4th of September we're going to collect a sample. And then one day later, on September the 5th, we go to the same location and we collect the second sample. In the meantime, we have a field data logger that is collecting field results. And those field results are going to span an interval of more than these 2 days. So when we are going to be in the field samples tab and we have these two samples, we're also going to bring the field results from that field data logger. And upon uploading the field results, we are going to notice that some of the field results match exactly the 2 dates when we collected the field sample, the samples, and the other ones don't. So just to have a higher resolution of that image, what I'm trying to say here is that for the 4th and the 5th of September, we found field results that were pertinent to those two samples that were collected. And then for the 6th and the 7th, we found field results that were closer, but they were not matching. So in this case, we're going to get a dialog showing us that we have a match that's closest to the sample found. In this case, we are presented with the option of selecting those field results that will be closest to the sample that we want to associate them with. So we are going to have a drop-down menu, and that drop-down menu is going to show us the two samples that were collected, and we have the opportunity of choosing from those. And in this case, just for the sake of the demonstration, we're going to assume that the field results collected for the 6th of September are going to be assigned to the sample collected on the 5th of September. And we're going to do exactly the same for the samples collected, for the field results collected on the 7th of September. We're going to assign them to the samples collected on the 5th of September. What does that mean? That means that when we're going to import all the field results, we're going to be presented with the next situations. For the sample that was collected on the 4th of September, we're going to have a series of field results from 4th of September because we had a perfect match. For the sample that was collected on the 5th of September, we're going to have the perfect match that occurred on the 5th of September with the field results. And then we're going to have the field results that were matched by the closest date, and those were the 6th and the 7th. So in this case, the result is that for the sample collected for the 5th of September, we're going to have 3 sets of field results. And this is a very useful feature, so we don't really struggle with matching together the field results from the data loggers with the samples that we collected in the field. Another feature that's it's one of my favorites because it really streamlines a lot the way we import data from multiple logger data to Edge. In real life, field results may be collected with a variety of loggers. Before we created this feature, only the field results from one type of logger could be imported into one EDD. So at the time, this resulted in multiple EDDs, each EDD with its own set of field data that was coming from one type of logger. However, with this new feature, we are able to import in the same EDD data collected with various types of loggers. So in this case, we needed to address two things. And the first one is that for each type of device, we needed to define a header ID, which assigns a specific parameter to each of the fields from the field logger data header tab. So each parameter has a specific field. The next step in the field logger data tab, as we can see, for each location and date, we have a set of values, and all these values are associated with the header ID, which we previously defined here. So we are going to know in this way which these field results pertain to, which parameter they pertain to. And in this way, it's really, really easy to put together field results from various loggers and just have one EDD at the same time. The new feature that also it's quite exciting, it's our new printing configuration tool. And we did think about this because we recognize that there is an enhanced need of field documents complying with quality system requirements, and as such, we wanted to create a print configuration tool which will allow for customization of printed field forms. And with this tool, we can take control and define to a high degree of refinement the look of our field forms by customizing the footer, the header, and the signature on each page. So for example, the way it works, let's say we are in a field sample form, we're going to access the setup, and we're going to go to the print configuration. And once that we're going there, we're going to be prompted with configuring the header, the footer, and the signature in the final field form. Clicking on the header, we're going to be prompted with another window which shows us a variety of elements that can be input in the header, like text, page number, date, image, fields that are found within the section of that form, height of those fields, and so forth. Even more, if we click on the text, we're going to be presented with an additional option which allow us to place the text in different position within the footer, and also to choose a font style. So it is a pretty complex customization feature for printing, and once that it's customized, it's going to allow us to print documents that are going to be reflective of exactly what we want to show in the header and the footer. So that's how the end result looks. The next feature, it's my favorite as well, and you're going to hear me saying it's my favorite because I think all of them are my favorite. But anyway, this one is particularly a very useful feature in the field because this feature enables the user to calculate a hydraulic gradient between pairs of wells. So the hydraulic gradient is then compared against a value which is predefined by the user based on specific site requirements. And this feature is particularly useful for tracking hydraulic containment between wells, monitoring containment of groundwater flow within a specific area. And why is this so important is because usually there is a delay between the data collection in the field and then data analysis in, let's say, in our office. And if a breach happens, we won't be able to know immediately. However, implementing this feature, just knowing how to use it properly, we can actually have a response in real time about what happens with that barrier wall. So the hydraulic containment feature using Edge is based on previous setup of database tables. The way this works is that we're starting with defining table data in tables as RT group and RT group member. So in the RT group table, we will be defining the wells that are the pair of sentinel wells that are monitoring the hydraulic containment. And once that we do that, we're going to go to the RT group member and we're going to define the actual wells that contain, that form that group. So in our case, we're going to have B31, which is the primary well, and we're going to define it as report order 1. And we're going to have B32, the secondary well, report order 2. And we're going to allocate a hydraulic gradient which is acceptable of 2 feet between these two wells. So how does this work? Once that we set up those tables with a pair of wells and the hydraulic gradient, we're going to generate an edge field EDD. And we're going to make sure to have the wells, to have the screen, and also to have the reference elevation. Once we created the edge field EDD, we're going to upload this into Edge, and going in the field, we're going to collect the depth water. And as you can see here, we have highlighted the hydraulic gradient. In this real case, what happened is that we have the primary well be 31 and the secondary well be 32. We had the historical top of casing for each one of these wells. We have the depth water, and then when the elevation of the groundwater has been calculated, we notice that we have a difference between these at about 10 meters, which exceeds by far the 2 meters of hydraulic gradient that we initially assigned. So obviously we exceeded that gradient, and that's exactly what is shown here. Another feature that we're going to talk about is the exporting COC as a PDF. And through this feature, we address the concern that we hear on over and over again because the chain of custody usually is created as an Excel file, and there is potential that this chain of custody can be modified after it has been created. And obviously, we all know that it is of paramount importance that the lab receives very accurate information. Consequently, we added an option to save the COC as a PDF file. So the way this works, it's really easy. We're accessing the main edge folder, the COC template folder, where we have the COC template Excel files. Once that we open that, in the setup, we have the option of saving this document as a PDF, yes or no. So we're going to be selecting the yes, and upon selecting yes, saving, we're going to be prompted with an Excel document. However, the saving dialog is going to ask us if we want to save as a PDF, and obviously we can do that, and then we can acquire that COC printed as a PDF. The next feature is really exciting, I have to say. And it talks about capturing photos from built-in camera with OCR. This is a feature that's more comprehensive. It's not only the OCR. The way we started the feature a while ago was by capturing site photos and editing them. Let's say we're in the field, we want to take a photo of the site, and also want to make some markups on the site. We would be able to do that just by editing literally the picture that we're taking. However, what we wanted to do further to that initial function, we wanted to be able to capture specific written information such as codes, for example, and performing an OCR. And if we think about how we look through the camera and what we capture in the camera, obviously we see in this case, for example, that the objective of the camera is capturing such a wide field, and obviously only this field is of interest for us. So we're trying somehow to narrow down the field where the camera is going to concentrate the OCR, and we do that by literally defining a field for the recognition of our characters. We can do that within our new feature, which is photo. Once that we click on photo, we're going to go on the easy camera and on the settings, and through the settings we can define the dimensions of the rectangle that is going to allow us to narrow down the section where we want to capture a certain label, for example. However, if we think about it, and we all perform OCR in the past, OCR is not really perfect. And in this case, we really want to be perfect. One of the reasons that we want to do the OCR and to make it perfect is because we want to avoid any kind of mistakes. We'd be better off just writing by hand instead of having actually an OCR that doesn't work properly. So just to avoid a generic OCR that could render mistakes, we took this feature, I would say, a notch above, to the point that and let me explain you how it works. Let's go back again to this rectangle and this code that we have to recognize, and usually this could be a serial number from an air filter, for example. And once that we defined the window, we also can define the nature of all these fields that have to be captured here. So let's say in this case we have field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4, and so forth. And for all these fields, we're going to apply a filter. So we're going to say, well, filter 1 consists of letter Q. So when we do OCR, we make sure the OCR only looks at letter Q. For filter 2 or field 2, we have a numeric character that could be anything from 0 and 9. So we do apply the same rationale for all the other filters in this serial number, and eventually we're going to have a very accurate optical recognition. And it works really well based on our experience. Obviously, you can verify the text data right away to see if it's consistent with what is there, but as I was saying, and I would like to reiterate, this is a very useful feature and it works pretty well. The error log. I'm coming from a position where I have been in the field and I have seen this, and I know how it can induce a sense of being lost. I'm a QA analyst right now, and I encounter this here and there, and I have the same feeling as my heart is fluttering. So anyway, I would use a paraphrase here saying that who makes no mistakes is who never does anything. So yes, we are going to encounter these kind of situations, and we do recognize that errors will happen. So we created a feature which basically allow us to go further than just take a screen capture of this error when it happens. So the feature consists of a log file which is located in the Edge directory. So next time you encounter an error during your work with Edge, you will be able to send us the error log file, and we'll be tracking the nature of the error and address it. So overall, this results in a better understanding of our own product and in offering a quick response to your raised issues. And just for your information, here I was trying to create an error log file that it's very comprehensive, just to show you how well it works. And I was crashing on purpose Edge. But anyway, bottom line, everything what happens when it happens and it creates an error is properly logged, and you only have to send us the file. And that is going to help us to improve the understanding of this error and obviously remediate the issue. And last but not the least is the optional user login auto-populating name in EDD. EDDs are the foundation of accurate field data collection, and we want to associate an EDD to a particular person who knows the work in the field. So we want to avoid scenarios when, let's say, an undesignated user can load an EDD in Edge and start using it without the right of doing so. And as such, we created a feature that would allow us to require a password for a specific user when they load the EDD in Edge. So the way this works, we're starting with database, and in our DT person, we have the people that are assigned, let's say, for that specific field job, and then for them, we're going to assign a PIN number. Once that we do that, we're going to save the Edge field EDD, and then making sure that we include the people who are involved, the locations, the task. We're going to upload that EDD into Edge, and once that we upload that, we're going to be prompted with a drop-down menu that shows all the people that have the right to work on that EDD, and also they would have to provide the PIN that was set up in DT person. And once that they do that, they would be able to proceed and work with the EDD. So anyway, I guess this concludes our list of 10 features that we're presenting. As I was saying, we have many other more features that are quite as exciting as these ones. So if you do have any question, or if you want to see the whole extent of our features, you can actually consult our release notes at the link provided here. And for any other inquiry that you might have, we also have additional links. And we're also here to answer to your questions. And thank you very much for your attention.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. I don't see any questions in the chat pane, so thanks everyone for attending.